Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva Tvameva vedyat ravitam Tvameva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, get some light on the subject. So we are in the first section, and we, I think, are now going on to the 8th mantra. Is that correct?
Yes, we're on the last mantra of the first section.
Okay. So let's review again. What is it that the Rishi has been telling us? So the question at the beginning, Kena, by whom or by what does the equipment, the upadhis, do their fine? How does the ear hear, the eye see, the limbs act? What is the animating force? We talked about Brahman contact, how the equipment is essentially jada, inert. And it is because of the life principle of the cell that the body, mind, intellect is able to function. Just like electricity makes the bulb light up. The bulb is essentially inert without the electricity. What is the nature of this self? It is consciousness. Sat, pure existence. Chit, awareness, consciousness. Ananda, bliss absolute. We'll get to why we call it that later. But for now, we will translate Ananda as no sorrow reaches there. No sorrow reaches there. It is not that which you worship there. The scriptures give us upasana, worship, as a preliminary practice. It's not bad. It's not wrong. It just has a place at the beginning of our sadhana. Here the Upanishad is saying, okay, now that your mind and intellect has been purified to some degree, giving you the high wisdom, It's not out there. It is my very self. Any thoughts about this before we go on? All right. Last mantra in this first section. Will you help us out, please, Amini?
Sure. Yat pranena na praniti yena prana.
Can you stop? We have a fire truck going by.
Sure.
Can't hear it. Okay, start again, please.
Yat pranena na praniti yena prana praniyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate iti pratama khandaha. That which one breathes, not with his breath, but by which breath is breathed, know that to be Brahman, and not this, which people do worship here.
So there are layers by which we can understand this. The word the Rishi is using is prana. Prana can mean breath, but prana actually means the vital energy. So, have any of you ever studied a martial art like Aikido or Tai Chi? That Ki or Chi, same as prana. If you take a yoga class, first you learn the postures, asana. Then, if you've got a good teacher, the next thing they will teach you is pranayama. What is pranayama? It is learning to control the vital energy force, the prana, through control of the breath. If you have an interest in this, I can strongly recommend a book called Light on Pranayama by B.K.S. Iyengar. It follows his classic book, Light on Yoga, which is about asana. Must have a fire down the street. So the pranas are usually divided into what we call the Panchavayu, which means the 5 vital airs, which control all the activities in the body. We have the main prana, which controls the inhale. Then we have apana, which is the exhale, sometimes also elimination. I always get these confused. Dhyana is circulation, the energy that makes our blood circulate. Samana, digestion. So if you're having tummy trouble, that's the vayu that's out of balance. The 5th one is udana. Udana governs thinking. Now, do any of you, for example, during, say, Navaratri fast or any other holiday? Yes, no?
No.
No. But you know people who do.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a fast and a diet? Any of you been on a diet?
Fasting is the dedication is coming in. You're dedicating it to something.
And why would the scriptures suggest that we limit our food intake as a dedication?
I think it keeps the body probably quiet and calm.
You're getting there. You're close. Because Not only does the breath affect prana, but food affects prana. So when you fast, in the Western traditions, you always hear it called prayer and fasting. Two are put together. Because all the prana moves towards the center and the mind slows down so it can enhance meditation, because the udana is all brought into just powerful state of quiet. It's all scientific. So when the Rishi here says it is not the prana, yes, we can say it's not the breath, but it also means all the vital energy animates our body. What is the life principle? Causes everything to be. So, those of us who have studied Gita, in the second chapter, the 16th verse in the second chapter, Lord Krishna plays with two words, Sat and Bhava. He says, Na sato vidyate bhavaha. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't have any being. Can't remember the rest of the verse exactly. If it has no being, it has no existence. The knowers of wisdom know the distinction. What does he mean by this? Well, by and large, we will separate the world into things and beings. You are a being. You are a being. The table is a thing. The chair is a thing. We then also separate the world into things that actually exist, things that are imagination. The horns of a hare don't exist. The child of a barren woman doesn't exist. We can have ideas. Once upon a time, there was a princess who was never born. And she married a prince who did not exist. And she was barren and didn't have the child that grew up to be another prince, who flew on a horse with wings to the castle in the clouds. There he met a dragon who never was. I mean, I can tell a story. We do this to children, but it's not real. They don't exist. They're just imagination. You understand? Sat, asat. It exists. It doesn't exist. Bhava, being, abhava. It is not being. Krishna says, only being really exists. If it has no being, it has no existence. Where is the locus of being? You. It is myself. in the oldest scriptures and in Gita, we have the word Purusha. What does Purusha mean?
Conscious.
Ultimately, yes. Literal meaning is person.
Being.
Hmm?
Being, yeah, person.
Yeah. We have the great hymn, the Purusha Suktam, of the cosmic person whose sun and moon are the eyes and his kidneys are the waters, etc. This is all allegory, mystic symbolism. But in Gita, Krishna calls himself Purushottama, Uttama Purusha. And the ISKCON people translate this as the ultimate, the ultimate personality of Godhead, I think is how they talk about it. But I would translate it as the ultimate essence of personness. What makes you you? Now, in Vivekachudamani, Shankara invites us to take up what I call the amputation meditation. So you're sitting here. If your feet were cut off, would you still be you?
Yeah.
Your hands were cut off, would you still be you?
Yeah.
Where are you located? Most of us think we're kind of a disembodied head, because most of our senses are in the head. But where are you? What are
Is that the,
you?
is that the life energy?
No, you are beyond the life energy. You are the knower of the life energy. I mean, you, your sense of I. That's tricky because the body is in you, you're not in the body. It's like in the dream state. Feels like I'm in my body in the dream. But upon awakening, I realize, oh no, that was a dream body. It was in me. I was not in it. You do not see, hear, taste, touch, or smell yourself. You don't emote yourself. You don't think yourself. But you are Bhava. You are being itself. The self is not an it. The self is a who. There's an old Buffy St. Marie song back in my old hippy dippy days. God is alive, magic is afoot. Not only are you live, you are life itself. You are a conscious, sentient being that is not the body, not the personality, not the jiva. And the whole creation is pervaded by it. And it is that which causes the vital energy to act in all things, which causes the breath to go in and out. Wonderful, wonderful idea. Now, the Buddhists, there's a school of Buddhism, I won't say all Buddhists, which we call the Shunyavadins. Shunya means void. Scholiasts of the void, who posit that there is no ultimate reality. Consciousness is also malleable and mutable, and it rises along with the perception of objects and then falls, and that it is transient. Vedanta would say that's an absolutely unverifiable philosophical position. I'm not saying something doesn't go away. It's the ego. Something remains to know the presence and the absence of the ego. If consciousness were to disappear, who would know it? No one can deny the eternal nature of aham, this ground of being, this consciousness, which not only is chit, sat, existence, but bhava, being. It is always experienced as the eternal subject, never known as an object, though it causes the objects, meaning the upadis, the equipment, to function. It makes the breath work, it makes elimination work, it makes circulation work, it makes digestion work, and it makes thinking work. The Panchavayu, all subsidiary of the prana. So we can look at it as the breath behind the breath, but it can also mean the animating force behind the life principle itself.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this life energy, the prana, that's the one that runs the body. Right? Without that, nothing happens. And I'm just trying to find the relationship between this life energy and the consciousness, right?
Energy is inert. It has no sentience. It is because of what we call a sparsha yoga. The root here is prichati, which means to touch. Asparsha means untouched. Yoga means to join. Wait a minute. Is it joined or is it untouched? Yes. So you are the cause, the life itself that causes the life principle of the prana to function. But you will never see the self animating the prana. You are the self animating the prana. I don't know if that makes it clearer.
That's deep. I'm not able to understand.
Well, it is of Upadesha. You can't really talk about it, but you can directly experience who you are. Just understand that when you do pranayama, if in the morning you wake up and you got a lot of energy, you are aware that you've got a lot of energy. If after lunch you feel sluggish, I think I want to go take a nap, your energy is declined, you know the rise and fall of the body's energy. Mm-hmm. It's rainy, you don't get out and do any exercise, you feel prana low. You make it to the gym. Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel so good. But do you not know the rise and fall of the energy? Yes? No?
Yes, I
Who knows it? I do. Koham. Who am I?
The consciousness.
Yeah. Now remember, consciousness is not something you're going to know. Who sees the phone?
I see the phone.
That's yourself.
What happens to the consciousness if I sleep?
It is still there. I can prove it to you. For example, there's a difference between being blind and seeing darkness. Can you see all the objects in the room right now?
Yeah.
Close your eyes. Are you blind?
Yeah.
You are seeing the back of your eyelids.
Mm-hmm.
Open your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The eyelids occluded your perception of phenomena. Likewise, when the mind is folded up in deep sleep, the self is there to illuminate. And the way we prove it, is through the law of memory.
Mm.
The law of memory is the rememberer and the experiencer must be the same entity.
Mm-hmm.
Did you sleep well last night?
I did.
Did I? What? What'd you say?
I don't know.
Why not?
I'm not you.
You weren't there. You can only know what you directly experience. And if you got up in the middle of the night to go pee, you know it. So here's the self, constantly shining. Here's the mind going through its three states: the waking state, dream state, folded up in the deep sleep state. But watch carefully. Nirvikalpa samadhi. And the mind comes back, oh my gosh, there's nobody there. What happens? You are the knower of the mind folded up into its seed form. Has many different names: avyaktaha, the unmanifest.
You say samadhi?
Samadhi, yeah.
What is samadhi then?
Samadhi, we'll get into that. I probably shouldn't have brought that up. Anyway, we'll put that on the shelf for now. Okay, any other thoughts or ideas about what we've talked about? The consciousness, the self is the life principle itself. I love what Deepak Chopra said when someone asked him, is the opposite of death life? And he says, no, the opposite of death is birth. There is no opposite to life. Wonderful. Okay, any questions out in Zoom land?
What is the opposite of death? You say? What did he say? Birth?
The opposite of death is birth.
Oh, birth. Got it.
Yes. Krishna in Gita says, certain is death for the born, certain is birth for the dead. But you are birthless, changeless, deathless. All right, that ends the first section. So Amini, let's move into the mantra 9, or do they start it over with 1? I can't remember.
They start over at 1, Jim.
Okay.
But this is chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Yadi manyase suvedeti daharamevāpi nūnam tvam vetta brahmano rūpam Yadasya tvam yadasya devesvatanu mimamsyamevate manye vidita. The preceptor here hastens to warn his disciple, if you think, I knew well, it is certainly but little. The form of the Brahman you have known is also the form of the Devas. Therefore, I think that what thou thinkest is still to be ascertained.
So, this whole section is going to deal with what we call paroksha jnanam, indirect knowledge, in contrast with aparoksha jnanam, direct experience. In Gita, this will be called jnanam vijnanam cha, understanding coupled with direct experience. So, if you think because I've read bunches of scripture and commentaries, I've listened to a lot of gurus, and more than that, I've watched things on YouTube, I understand it. I completely understand it. And I think that's knowing it. Here the Rishi says, and drawing on Cana, Gita says in the second chapter, he who knows it not. She who knows it not knows it. That makes no sense at all. So, in English, I want to make a distinction between ignorance, when I have lack of knowledge of something, and agnosia. It's a Greek word. It means unknowing. What the yogi is working toward is unknowing. So right now, there is a flow of thought. Last week we talked about spiritual algebra. Mind equals awareness plus the flow of thought. So my thoughts go by, much like the traffic outside. So if you listen to the traffic, see, it's just this kind of constant sound. But at 3 or 4 in the morning, it slows down enough that you could hear one car arise out of the silence. It goes by and there's silence again. So in our meditation with practice, we reduce the frequency and the volume of thought. This is abhyasa, this is practice. Until we can begin to see the thought arises out of silence and it exists and goes back into silence. Swamiji used to say, when the last thought is thoughted, before the next thought starts thoughting, there's a gap. The space between my thoughts. In the beginning, it is frequently seen for the first time in that interval between the inhale and the exhale, or between the exhale and the next inhale, where there's silence. When we unknow in that silence, with the attentive faculty turned within, when we get the direct apprehension of the no thingness of the self. It's not nothing, but it's no thing. So it's not figure outable. It's not known by getting a lot of data. It's not my accomplishment. Oh, I could chant the entire 15th chapter of Gita from memory. That's not it. That can be helpful to reminders. But we need to practice unknowing. Stop the mind. So the scripture gives us this paradoxical language. A person who studies the Vedanta and understands it from an academic standpoint is called a pundit. Nothing wrong with that. For us Westerners, we would say a scholar, a professor. But someone who's entered into the direct experience. Now, we Westerners have an advantage that Indians do not. Indians have such reverence for the Mahatmas, the men and women of realization, that we have an unconscious notion. That's so great, but it could never happen for me. I'm just a worm. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm going to have my job. I'm going to get married, raise my kids. I might do a little japa. I might do some puja. But it's way beyond me. Another lifetime in the future. Who's had those thoughts?
Yeah.
That will keep you out of it. Now, Westerners, no one told us it's hard. No one told us it's so special. Why not? So we have an advantage there. We have an advantage. Not that it shouldn't be revered. But listen carefully. In Gita, I'm not making this up, Lord Krishna says, easy to perform. Self-realization is not difficult. You don't need to have a high IQ. You don't need to know Sanskrit. You don't need to be Indian. But it's very, very rare. And it's very, very rare for several reasons. The first one, nobody wants it. largely because the vast number of people in the world don't even know it exists. And then, when the scriptures say, the way in which you easily come to know your self nature is give up the stupid thinking and acting that causes you to suffer. You think that would be easy. Such is the power of Maya that when I start to hear talk of renunciation, of tyagaha, of abandoning the world, I'm never going to have any fun. Now, I work a lot with people coming into 12-step groups, addicts and alcoholics. I cannot tell you how many alcoholics I've known whose lives are a wreck. They've lost their family, they've lost their job, they've lost their health, but their minds tell them, if you had my problems, you'd drink too. They do not see that the drinking is causing the suffering. And that's the state of the worldly person. No blame. But you hear talk of renunciation, and the mind says, oh, I won't have any fun. I won't enjoy. When in fact, what are you giving up? Trinkets and baubles. A little bit of momentary juice. What are you losing? Infinite bliss. Because as long as I think happiness is out there and not the mind coming home to the self, the mind's going to keep extroverting with this discontent, with this struggling, with this kartavya, always under the throes of obligatory action. Swami Tejo Mayananda used to tell a story. In the Chinmaya mission, we had a custom called bhiksha. Now, the original meaning of bhiksha is a sannyasi would be able to beg once a day for food. What it's come to mean in modern times is you invite the Swami over to your home and you prepare a meal for him and you wear your fancy clothes and all your fancy jewelry and jingle, jingle, jingle. Swami, eat it. And then at the end of the meal, there's a thali with fruit and an envelope with a check inside. Give it to the Swami. The Swami takes the check, puts it in his pocket, and the prasad gives you back. Any of you done that? Yes, no? No. No. That's what they do. That's how a lot of these organizations make money. Mm-hmm. So this family had a bhiksha for the Swami. And then the householder says, oh, Swamiji, you are such a great renunciate. You've given up the world. And the Swami gets down on his knees and touches the householder's feet. And the fellow said, no, 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 Swami, no, 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 no. And the Swami says, oh, you are the much greater renunciate. I've given up the world, but you've given up infinite bliss.
Mm. Mm.
So self-realization is rare because people don't want it. They want the world. Now, you may think you worship Lord Krishna or Lord Shiva or any other Ishtadevata, but I'm going to tell you what your God is. If you take the word God, G-O-D, and we pull it apart, and we take an extra O and go put it in there, and we have G-O-O-D. Spells good. My good is my God, and my God is my good, no matter what theology I may believe on the surface. So if you think financial security is essential, that's your God. If you think being married, having a primary relationship is essential, that's your God. If you think the approval of others is just absolutely what motivates you, that's your God. In the Hebrew scripture, it says, I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. Doesn't mean God's neurotic. It means if we place anything in the world as where our worship is, what our devotion is, what we think of as the good, knock yourself out. But that's what you get. So, yoga says, watch your mind. What does it feel like to want something you don't have? Or the flip side, want to be rid of something you don't like, or what I call the neurotic form. I have what I want, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. A fancy new car, and oh, I don't want to park next to anyone else. The door may hit my car. Anybody done that? Fear. Oh, I don't want my car to get hurt. You're not enjoying, you're fearful. Can you find any other kind of suffering other than wanting something you don't have, or the flip? That's raga, dvesha. I want to get rid of what I don't like, or the neurotic form, the fear I'm going to lose what I already have. But what about if I have a broken leg? Well, let's put physical suffering on the shelf for now. But in fact, most people don't end up in the psychiatrist's office because they've got a bunion. They do because of the suffering of raga and dvesha. Kama, usually translated as desire. I don't think that's a powerful enough English word. I prefer to translate it as craving. Spriha, One of my favorites. Longing, I want it so bad. Vancha, wanting. And what happens when desire and object of desire become one? For a moment, the craving goes away, the desiring goes away. Oh, I really want pizza. Oh, I want pizza. Oh, pizza rise. Oh, it's so good. The desire for pizza is momentarily gone. And yoga says that's a kiss of the bliss of Brahman, of your own self-nature. But we just get confused because of our ignorance. And we attribute that joy to the object, not realizing all I've done is induce the state of mind free from desire momentarily. All yoga is saying is, why not get rid of the middleman? Go directly for the happiness. So much more efficient. And the good news is, wherever you go, there you are. Yourself is always available. And it's free. And it won't rot your liver. And it won't make you fat. Doesn't cost anything. And there's no end to how deeply the mind can revel in the self. So in Gita, back to the second chapter, the very last 18 verses are what we call the Sthita Pragya Purusha section, the person of steady wisdom. And Arjun says, well, how does the person of steady wisdom walk? How does he talk? How does he sit, etc.? First thing Lord Krishna says, when a person casts off all the desires of the mind, O Partha, and is satisfied in the self, by the self, then they are said to be a person of steady wisdom. This is the aparoksha jnanam, the direct experience. So we don't go there because, first of all, we don't know what exists. Most of us don't really want it. I'd rather have the world instead. And it is useful to find someone who really understands the process. Say, oh, let me just show you how to get there. It's not as hard as you think. And that's the value of the preceptor. Guru, what Guru just means a teacher. The literal meaning, by the way, is heavy. But another etymology, gu, the root means something that's hidden or covered. So what does the Guru do? Uncovers our real nature. How do you know you're working with the real McCoy? You know. But one of the things that you can use as a possible indicator when you're in satsang with the Guru, do they turn your attention back on yourself so that you get glimpses of your own self nature. Swamiji was a master. Just a master. So, in this first mantra, he who knows, meaning the paroksha jnana, the indirect knowledge, may have some understanding, but doesn't really know. The person who can practice this unknowing, being able to find the space between the thoughts with the attentive faculty, introverted, turn within. See if you can notice the knower. Who am I? All right, next mantra.
Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yo nastadveda tadveda no na vedeti vedacha. I do not think that I know it well, but not that I do not know. I know too. Who amongst us comprehends it, both as the not known and as the known? He comprehends it.
So this is the reply of the shishya, of the disciple. So the guru is testing the disciple. One of the things the guru will do, well, let me back it up. So we have a word in Sanskrit, a root, sta tishtati. It means to stand or be established or be still. It's where we get the English word stand or established. One of the words that comes from this root is sthanam, which is a post. Now, I don't know, have any of you grown up in a rural environment where you had to build fences?
Yeah.
Where? In India?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I did too, because we had horses. So tell me if you guys did the same thing. So if you had to build a fence, the first thing you did was you dug a post hole.
Yeah.
And then you would put the wooden post or sometimes a metal post in it. Then you pack it with rocks, and then you poured the concrete in. Do the same thing in India?
Yeah.
Okay. And then after the concrete is set, before you either string the chain link, or if it's a wooden fence, you put up the rails, what do you got to do?
Check.
You check the post. What do you do?
Try to shake it.
If it's not been set properly, it'll, going back thousands of years, hasn't changed a whole lot, except they didn't probably use concrete. So the guru will kick the post. Well, I don't think you know. You think you know. But he who knows it not. She who knows it not knows it. And then here the Shishya says, Guruji, it's not that I know it like data. I don't know it like that. But I do know it. So knowledge of yourself is absolutely self-validating. You will not get an enlightenment certificate from the Buddha. If you think you need an enlightenment certificate, you're a fool. Now, here we want to talk about a very important point. There are two kinds of people in the world. Those who think they're a person, and that can be, I think I'm the body, or I think I'm this job or this caste or this relationship. Listen carefully. Or I think I'm an enlightened person. All of them are fools. The other kind of person knows that they are Brahman, but they are not a person. So there's an old proverb in the Buddhist tradition. If you see the Buddha on the road, kill him. That doesn't mean go out and do mayhem to spiritual people. It means if the idea, oh, I'm enlightened now, comes up, get rid of it. Who is it who thinks he's enlightened or she's enlightened? That's the ego. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. He who knows it not, knows it. He who knows it. You can usually tell someone who's caught up in identifying with their spiritual experience. The main reason is they're going to tell you about it. I've experienced this, and oh, and all this happened to me, and I've seen this, and I need mine, I need mine, I need mine. They may even set themselves up as a teacher. And then the attention of the class is always focused on the teacher, and they'll tell you how deep and enlightened they are. I'm an avatar. Real knower of Brahman. That's the real teaching inside. So in my work with Swamiji, in the beginning, oh, he was so wise, he was so smart, so clear. Then I realized, oh, he just keeps saying the same thing over and over again. Then I finally learned how to tune up my mind to go where he went. He would say, meet me there. Use the Guru. And after a while, the words would go on a million miles away. And there was this thunderous silence, this emptiness, where he would show us the awakened state of mind. And he would say, but it's a borrowed glory. Students, they leave the Vedanta on their chairs when they go out. We have to learn to tune the mind to that thunderous silence. That's my own self-nature. then I realized it was a trick. It wasn't Swamiji at all. It was my own self-nature. How do we access it? Unknown mind. So the Shisha here says, okay, this idea of he who thinks he knows it well. I'm not a scholar, Swamiji. I do know. I have no doubts about my essential nature. This is called Pratya Vijnana, usually translated as recognition. It's that aha that happens in the subtle intellect. Oh, I'm not a person. Vast and empty, like a shoreless ocean. Not a person. Aham Brahmasmi. So our Shishya here passes the test. The teacher kicks the post, and the student is unshaken. Okay, I think we'll stop here. We'll take the next one for next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.